Hello, it's Buck at SoCal Motorcycle Services here in sunny San Diego. It's a beautiful day out today. Okay, so today we're going to be working on this 1973 Honda CL350. It's a beautiful bike. The owner takes really good care of it and loves to ride it, but he recently ran into a problem that they all get sooner or later, is the starter clutch goes. The starter clutch is a one-way clutch on your flywheel that when your starter spins, it grabs the flywheel and spins it, but once the motor starts, it freewheels. So once it starts, the flywheel spins in the starter clutch and it doesn't grab it. It only grabs when the starter is starting. And the best way to describe it is it's like a bicycle. You know, when you pedal a bicycle forward, it grabs the chain which turns the wheel, and you can pedal as much as you want, it spins the rear wheel. But if you pedal backwards, you just get a clicking thing. That's exactly what a starter clutch does. And it's located behind this side cover on the flywheel, and it'll make a noise like this. It'll probably start for me because bikes like to start for me, but it'll make this noise. Hear that noise? And eventually, there. Here it's just spinning away. It's grabbing the flywheel a little bit and wanting to start it, but it's just not starting it. So what we'll have to do is we'll remove the exhaust, take off this cover, and replace it. So I'm going to remove the exhaust and then I'll show you some more in a minute. See you soon. Okay, we're back. So I removed the exhaust. The exhaust is easy. You have two nuts to take off on this head, two nuts to take off on the other side. You remove this nut that holds on the exhaust, and then you remove a bolt that holds the exhaust right here. And then the exhaust will come off in one piece. That's for the big nut on the side, and that's just to right here is the where you put the screw on, the bolt on to hold on the back of the pipe. It goes right here, and this is what the screw looks like. It'll go through here, and you just bolt the pipe. So you take this one off first, loosen this one, remove the nuts from the head, then you just shimmy off the exhaust. Pretty simple. Then we can get to the starter clutch right through this cover. So I already loosened it up, and since this is a 73, most of the bolts will be Phillips heads. That's what they used back then. They're a pain in the ass. So you have to get a Phillips that fits, See how it fits perfectly? You can even leave it on there. And then try to use, I use a 1/4-inch socket to loosen them up, because a screwdriver, you just can't get enough torque on it. So I loosen these 3 out. I'll show you how to take them. Then I'll remove them. Already removed that one. And of course these are loose. These are going to be harder to take off when they're actually not pre-taken off. Then you pull it off, and you'll see that the bolts, there's a gasket here, right around here, and then if you can see, there's an O-ring right there on each of the bolts. So just make sure when you put it back, you put back all 3 O-rings. They kind of keep the bolts in the cover too, which is a nice thing. So then you'll see the flywheel. This is the stator. So you remove the flywheel bolt. Now this is, you're going to probably zip it with an impact gun. Is put on the impact gun, zip it real quick, and it'll unscrew. Then you remove it. Then you'll need a tool like this. This is called a flywheel puller. This is a universal one. It fits several different ones. On this one, you screw it right into where the bolt came out. The flywheel's threaded. And when you tighten it down, it'll press on the inside and knock it loose. So when you pull it out, now you're going to want to be careful, because as you can see, this has a Woodruff key. This is a Woodruff key. That key goes into a notch on the crank shaft that corresponds with the slot in the flywheel. Right there, if you can see it. You see that little slot right there? The Woodruff key goes in there. And what that does is it locks the flywheel in one position, because this is where you get your spark from. When the flywheel passes a certain part, you'll see it has top dead center, firing, and this has to be in the exact right position. That's what the Woodruff key locks it in position, so that the bike will know when to fire spark plugs. Now, I took out, so you take off the flywheel, and this is heavy and magnetic. Do not drop it. On the back this is the starter clutch. I already removed it. You remove these 3 bolts, Phillips heads again, and you'll remove these 3 balls that fit into these slots. I'll show you when I put it back together again. And they're tensioned by a spring and a little plunger. There's the spring and there's the plunger. And that's the part that gets weak on them. When I put the new ones in, the new spring will be twice as long and have tension. These are so worn. This is one spring where it compressed all the way down to a quarter the size. Once we put those back in, the new ones in, the starter clutch will be fixed, and we'll install it back on the bike. I'll see you in a minute when I can show you how I'm going to put in the new spring and plungers and rollers. Okay, so this is where we're going to do it. The good thing is we got all these replacement parts are Honda. Honda is an awesome company. This is a 1973 bike made in 1972. They still make parts for it. Brand new. So what we have all three rollers, all three plungers, and all three springs. Now the rollers look pretty much good, but so we just kept where we're not going to reuse them anyway. We're buying new ones because they're cheap. But the plungers, these are the springs. The new springs are twice as long. This one is just so worn out and compressed, it looks broken, but it's just compressed. So we got the new springs, and the new plungers are worn out too. This one isn't even a plunger. These were pretty difficult to get out. So I'm going to put the old ones in this bag to give back to my customer to show them how worn they were. And I'll show you how we're going to do this. And by the way, this is magnetic, so you got to be careful. I already loosened these. It seems like they tightened up a bit again. So we'll take this off. We have 3 bolts that look in very good condition. Put those down here. Then the starter clutch just comes off. It has place where the 3 bolts go in, and then there's a pin so it doesn't loosen up and rotate. So we got this plate that we're going to remove, and you'll see this is where the roller, these little holes, I doubt you can see them. These little holes right here is where the spring and the plunger go, and then the bearing goes there. So we'll try to put these in without making a mess. Get the parts out. But you can tell just by looking at the springs how dead the other ones were. And they're not massive springs either. I think I've seen stronger ones in a ballpoint clicker pen. They're very, very fine. Okay. This is what the plunger looks like. It's got a solid end and a hollow end. So you put the spring in first. Actually, I'm going to assemble it in a sort of a different way. So the roller slides in here, and that's what gives you the freewheeling gear. So we'll put spring on the plunger. Feed the plunger into the hole. I'm going to gently use some needle nose to guide the plunger in, and that's what it should look like. Come here, Daniel. And that's what it should look like. We'll do that 2 more times. Man, Honda must make these bags. They're hard bags to open. Let's get all the parts out. It's a little meticulous, but it's not a difficult job. Just, if you're a mechanic, you know how working with springs is a pain. At least these can't hurt you. My daughter's taking physics in college, and I love physics. You cannot be a mechanic and not love physics. And these are potential energy. When you squeeze them, it builds up potential energy, and if they're strong enough, they'll spring back and hit you. These, the worst we'll do is boing them across the room, and then we're kind of screwed. So let me And using Honda parts, of course, everything fits perfectly. I believe they make these aftermarket. You do not want aftermarkets. Honda's still making them. Get them from Honda. There's two. And there's three. They're all installed. Then I would line up the plate so they don't fall out. And make sure you line up the pin. And we're on. Now, you do not want these bolts coming loose. So I'm going to use a bit of Loctite on them. Going to use a few drops of Loctite on the threads. Just a little bit will be enough. Just don't want them coming out on their own. Loctite is basically a glue for bolts if you don't know what Loctite is. If you own a Harley, you know what Loctite is. You Loctite everything on a Harley because of vibrations. These, you just, on Hondas, and they don't vibrate as much, so you don't have to use as much Loctite. Once you Loctite them in, you torque them down. And like I said, I like to use a screwdriver bit on a 1/4-inch ratchet and lock them in place. Alright, that's how you rebuild it. Let me get things ready for installation, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye. Okay, here is the 1973 CB350. Everything was put back together, and the starter clutch works great. See if you can hear this. Actually, I should say, see if you don't hear this, because it's not making that rattling noise anymore. Let's hear that noise again. See, it doesn't make the noise anymore. Man, I'd like to have a new bike that starts that good. All right, well, yeah, I love the working on vintage Hondas. I work on anything from, I've worked on bikes from the 30s all the way up to 2024. I'll work on the newer bikes. They pay the bills, but my passion lies in the older Hondas. They're just wonderful to work on. Not a lot of people know how to work on them, but I love them. It's got some drum brakes on the front, but they're the fanciest drums I've ever seen because they have dual shoes, so it engages in two spots. They'll hold it down fast, and it has high pipes so that you can basically do some light off-roading with it. But she's a good bike. Hey Daniel, come here. Daniel, come here. There's Daniel. He wanted to say hi. He likes to make an appearance in all my videos. But yeah, there it is. And he should be a happy camper. I am. So if your bike makes a rattling noise when you start, or the starter doesn't work at all, check out changing those that starter clutch components, and you'll be great. Thanks again. Stay tuned and please subscribe. Bye-bye.